Okay, so welcome to the August webinar of Redesigning School Counseling. We are so thrilled to have a lot of schools this year using the Redesigning School Counseling process to earn the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award and also the National Ask a Ramp Award. And more importantly, to design a school counseling program that meets the needs of your students. Just a little bit about how to use the system. You have a control panel that is available to you, and that usually is in the upper right-hand part of your screen. The parts of the control panel, the little orange button there that has the arrow to the right, if you click that, it actually reduces the size of the control panel considerably so you can see the whole screen. And then if you click the arrow again, it'll open back up the whole control panel. You can hit the View button to bring up those options. You can see that you have a choice of using phone or using a mic and speakers. However, in all of our webcasts, and we're only going to use phone connection, we found that with the mic and speakers that we get a lot of feedback, and it really hurts the quality of the webinar. So there's an audio setup button there, and then your audio pin, when you click the audio setup, it gives you your pin number. So again, for those of you who haven't entered your audio pin, if you do that, we'll be able to hear you as well as you being able to hear us. Then, during the webinar, if you have questions, there's two ways to ask questions. One is to type the question in the text box, and then we'll get a notice that what your question is. And then the other thing you can do is on the little control panel tab there, you can click that hand that tells us that your hand is raised and you want to say something. So we'll address questions at the end of today, or actually we're going to pause at stopping points throughout the webcast and see if you have any questions. So, and then you'll get an email within a 24 hours that has a link to the recorded version of today's webinar. So again, if you have questions during the webinar, raise your hand, or just type in the question, and then we'll see that and be able to address your question. So a little bit about us, a couple of introductions. If you haven't met us yet, my name is Sue Reynolds. I'm the Executive Director of the American Student Achievement Institute. And I always like when I'm watching webcasts to see who I'm talking and listening to. So there's me, and that is my brand new granddaughter as of a couple of weeks ago, Harper Lee, so I just had to put her picture up as well. A little bit of background about me is down at the bottom. I've been heavily involved in school counseling, both with ISCA and ASCA in the Department of Ed. And then my colleague, Bruce Ricklin, is our Director of Operations and Finance, and Bruce as well has a background with student guidance as the statewide director of the Teacher Internship Initiative and also a former regional director for School to Work and Tech Prep. So both of us have backgrounds in student guidance, and we come to this project with a lot of heart. So our organization is a nonprofit. We're located in Bloomington. We were founded in 1996, and our mission basically is to help schools and communities with the process of change to raise student achievement and close achievement gaps. And in this case, we're working with the process of changing school counseling programs to better serve kids. We do lots of different initiatives. There's a sampling of them on the screen, but the one that you're involved with, of course, is Redesigning School Counseling. Okay, so just curious, why y'all decided to get involved with RSC and Gold Star School Counseling. I know you know that it involves some work on your end to improve your program. So just curious what drew your attention. So somebody start us out here. Brooke or Stephanie? Brandy?
Hello.
Go ahead. Start us out.
So I'm with Brandy. My name's Brandon Crowder. We're just in this together. But what originally started it for us was Brandy, who's got her mouth full of a cracker right now. At her student teaching position, they had done the Redesigning School Counseling program there, and so came here. She brought it to us, so that's kind of how we learned about it and have some interest in it.
Good, good. How about someone else? Joyce? Brooke?
Yes, hi.
And is this Brooke or Joyce?
Yes, it is. This is Brooke Hostetler from Bedford Northwest High School. And what drew us to Gold Star is something I've wanted to do for quite a while, and we're starting to have a younger counseling staff here, and the three of us that are the three youngest are most interested in doing it. And so we decided to go ahead and go forward with it. We just wanted to make our counseling program better, and we're really interested in just trying out new things and reorganizing the way we do everything. So
good, good. You know, you touched on like reorganizing the way you do things. One of the things I think you all will find is that much of what you're doing already are things that are keepers. And often when we first start with schools, we're kind of, pleasantly surprised and pleased that even though many schools haven't developed their programs based on data like we will in this initiative, that the guesses that you've made have been good guesses in terms of what kids need. So the good news is we're not going to throw out everything. We're just going to re-examine what your kids need and then keep the parts of your current program that are working for kids, and then maybe let go of the parts that aren't as effective, or maybe that you don't need, that student needs really aren't in the areas that your program is focusing on. So good. So today's agenda, we've actually done the first couple steps, introduction, and school-to-school sharing. It kind of took you by surprise this time, but we'll always have a little bit of sharing in the beginning. Often it'll be about how did the process go over the last 4 weeks, and if you hit any challenges, you can see what other schools have done to get past those challenges, or if you've had some successes too. We love celebrating things that have gone really well. So we always will start out with some sharing, and there's usually not time for all schools to share, so I just kind of will pick on a few. So if you can be prepared, that will be great, and we'll always put up on the opening screen what the topic is, and so you can kind of take a look at that as you're waiting to get ready for the webinar. So number 3, we're going to very quickly review the RSC beliefs. We actually will do that in every session because it really kind of gives us a good foundation of why we're doing this work and what the whole initiative is built upon. Then also at the beginning of every webcast, we'll very quickly go through the process. The first few months when we go through the process, it's you're new to everything. A lot of times people will tell me they kind of feel like a deer in the headlights when we go through the process. If this seems overwhelming and huge, please keep in mind that this is a full year process, and it's really not important to understand the full year all at once, as long as you trust that the process works and that we've done this before and we know what we're doing. So what you really need to focus on is just what do you have to do next month. And then, the 3rd, 4th session, pieces will start to fall in place, and you'll start to see, why we did things the way we did, and what this data is going to be used for and how it fits into this discussion. Sometimes we're preparing for steps that don't happen for 3 or 4 months from now. So, but you'll see at 3rd or 4th meeting things start to really fit together. Then number 5, that's the big thing we'll do each month, is just talk about what happens this month. So this month's August topic is steering team recruitment. So we will spend some time talking about how to recruit steering team members that are going to be good workers for you and that will fit into the process well. And then the last thing we'll do each month is go into the online system and show you how to enter the products from this month's activities. So at the very end of this webcast, we'll go online and show you how to enter the steering team roster. So that's kind of the agenda, and the agenda will be very similar to this each month as we get together. So let's then just review the foundational beliefs. First of all, we believe that the purpose of school counseling is to prepare students for academic success at the next educational level. So if you're an elementary counselor, you're preparing kids to be wildly successful in middle school. If you're a high school counselor, you're preparing kids to be wildly successful in post-secondary. We believe that school counseling has a very significant impact on student achievement, and this is how we think that works. We think that when schools provide good student guidance for kids, and when they provide good counseling, that the result of that is that kids make good choices. They'll choose to engage in school, they'll choose to take rigorous courses, they'll turn in their homework, they'll not get into conflicts with administrators or teachers. They just make good choices. And then as a result of those good choices, achievement goes up. So that's how we believe that school counseling impacts achievement. And all throughout the designing this process this year, what you'll be focusing on is what choices do we want kids to make that will impact achievement, and then how are we going to put together this guidance and counseling program so that kids will make those choices. So again, the focus is on student choices. So in terms of the goals of the program, we'll have guidance and counseling goals, we'll have student choice goals, and again, those are the most important ones because that's what we want to do is to change the choices that kids make. And then we'll monitor student achievement because we'll think, if kids are really making good choices, we should have the percentage of kids who pass the algebra ECA go up. We know that school counseling is not the only thing that's going to impact algebra ECA pass rates. Math teachers have a lot to do with that as well. But collectively, all of us as educators and community members have an impact on that data, so we'll monitor that achievement data as well. And again, the focus, though, for us is on helping kids make better choices. So the process that you're beginning starts with this first step, and that is to redesign the school counseling process, and you'll start by putting together a steering team. So that is your August activity to make sure your steering team members are in place. Then next month, we'll talk about putting together an advisory council. The advisory council is a broad-based group that represents all the different stakeholders in your school and in your community. So we'll bring students to the table, faculty, parents, business leaders, higher ed reps, economic development people. And again, that's not a step you need to worry about now. When we get together in the beginning of September, we'll talk about getting that step done in September. Then the advisory council will start a series of meetings. At the first meeting, you'll just be doing an introduction with the advisory council. And again, we're going to give you all the materials that you need, the PowerPoints, the scripts, the activity sheets, everything you need to develop, to have that introductory meeting. Then the month after that, the advisory council worked on putting together a description of the ideal state of school counseling and of your school and of kids. You'll write a vision statement, and that vision statement then will direct everything that happens after that. Everything after the vision, the focus of it will be to move us closer to the vision. Then we'll come back to reality after we've been out in the dream state vision part, and we'll look at what is our current student data, and then what bothers us about that data. What do we want to change? So at the third meeting with your advisory council, you'll look at achievement data and student choice data. The achievement data comes from DOE. Student choice data comes from the Learn More survey or from other data that you have that tells you about student choices. And your advisory council will come up with this list of things that bothers them about all that data. Then at the fourth meeting, we'll do the same thing but with different data sets. So we'll bring in guidance data. That's data that tells us the degree to which your students have mastered the Indiana Student Standards for Guidance or the national ASCA national standards. We align with both of those. So we'll look at guidance data, and then we'll also look at your students' social personal needs, your counseling data. And again, your advisory council will come up with lists of things that bother them, that they want to change through the school counseling program. So at the end of meetings 3 and 4, you'll have 4 huge posters that have all of these things on them that bother your advisory council. You know, they're bothered that not more kids graduate, or they're bothered by the percentage of kids who understand what a FAFSA is, or they're bothered by the percentage of kids who report that they're being bullied, or whatever. And what will happen on these lists is that there will be way too many things for a school counselor to address, even with great ratios. It's just, you know, impossible to address every single need that kids have. So at the next step, what we'll do here is try to expand resources so that you can tackle as many of those things as possible. This is typically where your advisory council will speak up and become your biggest advocates, and you know, they'll be the ones who say to administrators, well, let's make sure that our counselors are face-to-face with kids all the time, or with parents all the time. We don't want them doing paperwork or things that take them away from the school counseling program. The advisory council may also be advocates for financial resources, for policies that may help you be able to deliver your program. So what we're going to do at this meeting is just expand resources as much as we can, thinking that the more we expand our resources, the more issues on these lists we can tackle through the school counseling program. So we'll expand resources in this meeting, and then the next meeting we'll come back and we'll say, okay, here's the deal. We've got these student needs and things that we want to address, all those things that bother us, but the reality is we have this much time, this much money, you know, this is the situation. So at this meeting, we get real realistic, and we ask, okay, of all of those issues, realistically, with the time and funding that we have, which ones can we tackle? And whichever ones that your advisory council and you agree that the school counseling program will tackle, we would suggest that you be accountable for those things. So if homework completion is something that you're going to really tackle, then you would end up doing pre-data and post-data on homework completion, and you do deliver a lot of guidance activities and to really help students understand and support kids so that they turn in homework. In my school counseling program, it was algebra enrollment that we really wanted to tackle as a student choice. And we held, as counselors, we held ourselves accountable for that. And then we designed a school counseling program that would get kids to enroll in algebra. This was a long time ago, way pre-Core 40, and algebra is a requirement. So you'll set goals at that point that are realistic, challenging but realistic. And then the next month, you'll talk with your advisory council about all the different activities that you could do to help your kids make the choices that you want them to make. And then after that's the final meeting of the advisory council. And then after that, you will work as counselors to prepare those activities. So to develop lesson plans and a program calendar and a budget and that type of thing that you do behind the scenes to make sure that your program functions. Okay, so as a result of this process, you end up with a school counseling program portfolio, and that portfolio can be submitted to the Department of Education for the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award. If you're interested in earning that award at the end of this school year, you would need to have everything done and submitted before June 30th. And then that would enable you to receive the award at the ISCA conference in November of 2013. If you're interested in the National ASCA Ramp Award, deadline for that is October 15th. However, because you're all Indiana schools, Indiana has an agreement with ASCA that any Indiana school that receives the Gold Star Award, those schools automatically qualify for the Ramp Award. So there is a very simple application that you will turn in the ramp, but you will not submit a portfolio to ASCA because your portfolio has already been approved by the Indiana Department of Education. Okay, so just sometimes we have confusion about what is redesigning school counseling and what is Gold Star and RAMP and what's the difference between the three things. So redesigning school counseling is a process. It's the process that you'll go through to develop a portfolio that then you can submit for the RAMP Award or for the Gold Star Award. So Redesigning School Counseling is developed by ASA, and then, of course, the Gold Star Award is an initiative of DOE, Indiana DOE, and the RAMP Award is an initiative of ASCA. One other thing that might be interesting to you is that there are 6 universities now that have made Redesigning School Counseling part of their graduate programs. So those universities are using RSC for their students in organization administration courses and in internship courses. So those kids actually, they get a dummy school that has data with it, and then they develop as part of their graduate program a school counseling program for those dummy schools. And then they turn in the portfolio to their professor for a grade. So that's kind of interesting, I think, and kind of exciting because that means that future school counselors will come out of their graduate programs understanding how to develop a data-based, vision-based, and data-driven process. Okay, so now the main topic for today is actually a very simple one, and that is just looking at recruiting your steering team members. I know we had 5 people from Southport register for this webcast, so I have a feeling that Southport is a step ahead and has already put together their steering team. But that's fine. Right now, our expectation is that there's just one of you who's interested in getting started. And so your first step is to recruit a steering team. So the steering team responsibilities would be these 4 things. 1, they would attend monthly steering team webinars. The webinars this year are always the first Tuesday of each month from 3 to 4. The exceptions are in January. It's actually the 2nd Tuesday because the first Tuesday was the first of the year. In May, the first Tuesday falls during ISTEP testing. So in the meeting in May will actually be the last date of April. So in April, you'll have a webinar on the first Tuesday in April, and then on April 30th as well. So one responsibility is to come to the webinars so everybody knows what's going on. Another responsibility is to put together and convene the advisory council. We'll talk about that next month. You don't need to worry about it now, but that's one of the responsibilities that the steering team does. And then the steering team also facilitates these monthly advisory council meetings. And what that is that these meetings are designed to just go through those steps of the process so you have lots of different perspectives. And again, we'll give you everything you need. We'll give you agendas, we'll give you PowerPoints, we'll give you scripts. We would like you to spend your time not in doing all that background work, but in really having rich discussions. So we'll give you all the tools, but then the rich discussion is what we hope you'll come up with. And then finally, the last responsibility of the steering team members is to enter your program components into the online system. After everything's entered at the end of the year, you'll just push one button, and that will submit your portfolio to the Department of Ed. You can push another button, and it creates a website for your school counseling program, and with links to all the different parts of your program. So those are the responsibilities. In terms of membership, we would suggest, actually the requirement is that you have at least 2 members. The rationale for that is we'd like you to have at least one other person in your building that you can bounce ideas off of, or if you forget something that we said during a webinar, you can go ask somebody, what did they say? Or if things aren't going well, you've got somebody to get your head together with to talk about it, or somebody to celebrate with. We just have found that it's really helpful if there's somebody else that you're working with to work with as a team. Ideally, though, we'd like to suggest that you have 5 steering team members or more. And having 5 or more members will allow you to delegate tasks. It's possible to do this with just 2 members, and we've had a lot of schools do that. But with 5 members, you can delegate tasks pretty nicely so that not one person has a whole bunch of stuff to do. Your steering team members don't have to be counselors. They could be teachers, maybe just the teachers who are real kid-friendly teachers that have an interest in guiding kids and developing students. And they can also be parents. We've had a lot of good steering teams that have had parents on the steering team that agree to take on part of the work. The most important thing with your steering team is to make sure that you have worker bees on the steering team. The steering team members are not there to be decision makers. They're not there because they have a certain perspective. Your advisory council does that. The steering team members are the worker bees. So when you're picking people to either be your 1 other steering team member or 4 other steering team members, you want to think about who in your building or who in your community is really well organized, follows through, does good work. You're really looking for worker bees. And again, if you get people on your steering team who aren't worker bees, they're just kind of taking up space. So you really, I can't emphasize that enough. Look for worker bees. In terms of delegating tasks, there's lots of different ways to delegate tasks, but as we've watched schools over the years, here's a very common way that schools do delegate tasks. One task would be to ask one of your steering team members if they would be responsible just for communicating with the advisory council. So they would send out, written notice or email to the advisory council members of meetings coming up. They'd call the advisory council members before the meetings to remind them about the meetings. They'd maybe send them a note after the meeting, thanks so much. Is really somebody who's just going to really be responsible for engaging with your advisory council. One of the nice things in this initiative is that most schools tell us that once they get their advisory council members to the first meeting, that the agendas are so engaging, it's not a sit and get. It's just the opposite. Advisory council members are coming so that we can listen to them. And the meetings are so engaging that it's pretty easy to get advisory council members to come back month after month. But again, if there's somebody just engaging with the advisory councils, it just makes that much more successful. The second task is to actually facilitate the meeting. So that would be the person that's up in front of the group, introducing the topics, facilitating the discussions, asking the questions, presenting the data. Some schools like to have the same person be facilitating the meetings month after month. Other schools rotate that so that it's a different person each month. So, just doesn't matter. I think whatever your style is would be fine there. The only advice that we have on this one really is that if your principal is a member of your steering team, it helps to not have the principal be the facilitator of the discussions because it appears to be very top-down when the principals are facilitating. So, and I think many principals understand that, and they're eager to take a sidestep and let leaders on the staff emerge and facilitate discussions at this type of meeting. So, something to think about there. The third task is somebody to take minutes and to post the minutes online using the online system. The minutes, really, the purpose of them is not to have a historical accounting of what happened at your meetings. We use minutes more to let the advisory council members know that they've been heard. One of the rubric items on the minutes is that you name people who said things at the meetings, and you quote or you paraphrase what they said. That way I know if I came to the meeting and what I said was so important that they not only heard me, they wrote it in the minutes, I'm much more likely to come back to the next meeting, and I'm much more likely to talk at the next meeting. So we use the minutes as a tool, as a communications tool, really. The next task is in somebody to do the narratives online. There's a lot of things that we have to document, but there's nothing that you can submit. So there is a list of narrative questions that say, how did you do this? How did you do that? And having one person just being responsible for coming up and entering those narrative paragraphs is a good task to assign to somebody. And then finally, the last task is just somebody to do all the other data entry online. So who's going to type in your vision statement and your goals and your activities and your targeted concerns and all of that. So so that would be a fifth way that you could delegate tasks. So kind of be thinking about, if you only have 2 people on your steering team, that means you're going to have to double up on that work and take on more than one of those tasks. That's very doable. We've had many, many, many steering teams that have only had 2 people on them. So don't worry if that's you. But if you've got good people that you can bring to the table as steering team members too, that would really help to split the work. You might want to look for teachers too who are interested in becoming school counselors. Down the road, they might have a real interest in serving on your steering team. Okay, so there are some tools to help you with recruiting your steering team. There's 2 webcasts online, which I think you've already watched. I'll show you where they are when we get online again. But they're the RSC Introduction and then the RSC Foundations. Okay, so this month there's only one online entry item to do, and that's just to enter the steering team roster, and I'll show you where that is in a sec. Okay, so before we go to the online system, let me see if people have any questions here. I've muted you because there was a lot of background noise, so I'm just going to unmute everybody and see what questions you have. Okay, so questions. I don't see any hands up. So far so good? Okay, I'm just going to go down the roster real quickly. Brandy, are we good?
Yes, we're good.
Brooke?
Yes.
Joyce?
I'm sorry.
Any questions, Joyce?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Julie?
No, stop for it. We're good.
Okay, and Randall?
We're good.
Okay, everybody's good. Okay, so again, if you have questions, just raise your hand and we'll come up there and answer them. Hey, I'm going to quick mute again so we don't hear the background noise, and then let's go to the online system. Okay, so in the online system, I've logged in as Southport, and since we have so many people from Southport, and let's just kind of look at the system. Just a refresher, when you first log in, you're likely to only see 3 tabs over here. To see all of them, you need to click on See RSC Full. Then you'll notice that in when you first log in, you'll come up with a paragraph. One of the first tabs that we'd like you to become familiar with is RSC Webcast tab. So if I click on that, that's really the main tab, and this year we're redesigning the whole system. In the spring-ish, we'll put up a new version of all this, but eventually this is going to become the front page. This is your main page. For right now, the way to get to it is to click on RSC Webcast. Then, one thing to notice on here is that all of the tasks for each month are follow the month, and they just have steps. So in April and May, you watched some webcasts, you entered the one person on your steering team, and then you uploaded some things. One of the things I wanted to also make sure you're familiar with over here is on these icons on the right. The icons, they have a little triangle in them, are webcasts, and you can see some of them are under a column that says Info. And then others are in a column that says demo. The demo webcasts show you how to enter information online if you forget how to do that. So if you forgot, how do I enter the initial member of the steering team, I could just go over here and see a demo. Then in the tools section, there's different tools that will help you. There may be samples of things. In this case, we've created a template for school demographics and a program self-study and a counselor effectiveness self-study. So we hope that you did that last spring as you got started. If not, that would be a quick catch-up to do. So you would download the templates there. Then in the Enter column, there's two different kinds of icons. If the icon has a little pencil in it, it means that this is a web-based form and you're just going to type it right into the computer. If it has an up arrow in it, it means that you're going to upload a file. So notice on this school demographics, I downloaded a file, I filled it in a Word doc, and then I uploaded it. And then the last column is where you can get reports. So on the school demographics, if I click on the report, I can actually see the file that Southport entered. And there it is. There's their school demographics. So once you've uploaded those, they're there forever until you upload a different one. So so that's how to kind of navigate those icons. In June, July, you worked on putting in data tables for if you wanted any data that we didn't provide for you. So a lot of schools decide to skip this step, but if in your school improvement plan, your principal and your school and community are really focusing on a specific achievement data target that we haven't tracked with the data that we're providing for you through DOE's data, you can create your own data table in this section and then start tracking that achievement data as well. Okay, and that brought us down to August. August, you can see, is pretty light in terms of work. Here is a demo on how to enter the steering team, and then here's where you'd actually enter the steering team and then the report. Okay, so I'll come back to actually entering the steering team members' names in a minute. I want to just feature a couple of other tabs over here. So we said the most important tab is the webcast tab, and then after that, the manual tab. So this is your steering team manual. We used to provide people with paper copies of this, and we decided to just save a lot of trees and just put everything in here for you to download. But you can see that there's, here's all the materials in November when we're getting to your very first meeting. Here's all the materials for that meeting, including things like what do you say in the first phone call to advisory council members, and here's a sample letter to advisory council members. So everything that you need, anything that a school has ever asked us for and developed, and we've developed it for them, we've put it up here as a resource for you. So there's meeting 1, meeting 2. I'll scroll down through meeting 7. And then after that, you've got some sections of the manual that start with letters. On the RSC portfolio section, the one thing I really want to point out here is the portfolio rubric. And let's just open that up real quickly. And you can see, and this is something I check each time before you submit something, that here's the rubric item. So what you're doing this month is creating your steering team roster, and you can see there's just one rubric item. At least 2 people are present on the steering team. So next July, when the reviewers for Gold Star and for RAMP look at your online portfolio, they're going to check, are at least 2 people present on the steering team roster? If so, then they'll put a check on there, and then they'll go on to the next thing. So I think a good rule of thumb is every month to just get online, look at the rubric items, and make sure that you're meeting all the criteria for Gold Star and RAMP. So that's in the portfolio section. Then the other thing that I wanted to point out is down in the standards section, here's all the different standards that this initiative is aligned with, so all the ASCA standards and the Indiana standards. And just sometimes people don't realize that the Gold Star award is actually aligned with the program standards for school counseling. Everything that we're doing in this initiative is helping you to meet the program standards for school counseling. And then when you've met those standards, then you have the Gold Star Award and the RAMP Award. One other thing I wanted to point out to you is in the logistics section, we award IU credit for this initiative. So if you're interested in earning IU credit, you would want to print out this log and just log every minute you spend this year working on RSC/Gold Star. Time you're working at home, time you're presenting at meetings, time during the webcasts, etc. So log all of that. Then we also can award PGPs, professional growth points, on behalf of the Department of Education. So if you're renewing a license or need PGPs, we can award those as well. That involves a log too, and both logs are due to us on June 1st. So just make sure that you're logging every minute throughout the year. Okay, so that's the manual. I wanted to run that by you. And then these other tabs are just kind of shortcuts. Like if you wanted to go straight to steering team, you could, and not use these green tabs. If you wanted to go straight to steering team, you could click on that, and it pulls you right into your steering team. Same thing with Advisory Council. When you're entering minutes, you can go straight to there and enter your minutes that way. Vision statement, achievement data, program data. Your narratives we talked about. Later we're going to talk more about when to do those narratives and what the questions are, but there's a tab that goes directly to them. One thing to point out, on the steering team page, when you click on it going this way, there's questions about what program recognition you're seeking. So make sure that these are accurate as of this year. And then what professional development you're participating in, make sure that that's accurate. Okay, so let's then go back to the webcast page. And the last thing we'll do today is go back to the August tasks, and we are going to enter the steering team roster. So I'm going to click on the enter icon. And you can see that at Southport they already have some people entered, but to add a new person, just click add a new person and just type in people's information there and then hit save. So it's very, very easy. If I go back, if I click on this report, that actually would print out the roster if you had any need to distribute a roster of your steering team members to anybody. So I think that's it. Let me come back and see if anybody has any questions about anything about the process or about their tasks for August. So just unmuting people very quickly. And let's see what questions you have. Okay, questions.
I have a question. On,
who is this?
this is Jenna. I'm with Brooke.
Okay, hi.
Hi. On the surveys that the counselors fill out, does each counselor fill out their own self-survey and a program survey, or do all the counselors work together on one program survey, self-study?
That's an excellent question. That's really up to you. The requirement for Gold Star is just that you upload a a self-study. So it could be a person's individual self-study, or you could work on it together and come up with that together. I know how I used to do it that our department liked. We actually did it first in terms of looking at the program self-study. We did it first individually, and then we got together for a staff meeting and kind of talked about how we answered things. And that was kind of interesting because sometimes, you know, one counselor's perceptions were very different than another counselor's perceptions, and it gave us a chance for some really rich discussion about that. Or another way you could do it is just not do it, you know, fill them out individually ahead of time, but just do it as a group. So either way is fine.
Okay.
Another question? Okay. Well, I thank everybody for participating. If you have questions between now and the next webinar, if there are questions about using the online systems, please feel free to give our office a call. And our phone number is 812-349-4142. And if you have a question about school counseling or the Gold Star Award or RAMP, call Amanda Cullen at the Department of Education. And Amanda's phone number is, I'm looking this up very quickly. Amanda's phone number is area code 317-232-0510. 317-232-0510. So very good. Thank you very much. And on behalf of your kids, thank you so much for participating in Redesigning School Counseling. I think that you'll find that the program that you end up with a year from now is really focused, really targeted, and the data that you then pull together a year after that will show that the changes that you've made in your program have really made a difference in helping kids make good choices that will have a positive impact on their future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.